Hi there. So my name is Vera, and well, basically, well, not me, but my creator is making Kigurumi mask for more than 16 years already, and today we are going to share with you some our thoughts and some of our insights about how to install eye pictures into Kigurumi masks. So let's begin. And this is the list, I hope it's exhaustive list of all the possibilities on how you can install the eyes and how you can keep them into Kigurumi mask. Well, there are different advantages and disadvantages, for makers, for users. So we shall talk about most of them, and so let's begin with our first way in this thing, and it's gluing eyes inside the mask. Gluing eyes in the mask is basically historically one of the first ways. So, and for example, you can see here in Irla mask, the eyes are glued inside. They are permanently fixed to the mask. No, it's one of my sisters. So what are the main advantages and disadvantages for this method? Well, first of all, it's the oldest method. It involves gluing ready-made eyes into the mask at the later stage of making it. So you create the mask shell, you paint it, and then you glue eyes inside, and you have, as a maker, you have to situate them, to align them properly, so they won't look at some weird angles. And then you add paddings, then you add hair over the mask, and the mask looks exactly like you as a maker have designed it. But also, if there would be any problem with the mask and it would require restoration, then it would be pretty difficult to remove the eyes. For example, if eyes would get broken, or on the contrary, you will have to repaint the mask, you will have to do a pretty solid amount of work to remove the eyes from the mask and to put them back together, and it's a skillful work that would be required. The other thing you should know is that this method allows you to use very different kinds of eyes. You can put regular eyes, you can use the doll eyes, you can use follow me eyes, with different special effects. You can use electronic eyes, you can use animatronics, and all that can be placed into the mask and will stay there and do this pretty solidly, pretty reliably, basically for the rest of the mask usage. Well, also the important thing to mention is ventilation. The ventilation in this kind of fixture may be limited. There can be no ventilation at all, and for lots of times makers didn't bother to make a ventilation through the eyes. Well, actually, ventilation through the eyes is a pretty important thing, and my experiments showed that if you have some airflow through the eye holes into the mask, it's make life way more easier than if the eyes are hermetically sealed all over the perimeter. But the maker can know that fact and make some some places for the eyes to make it easy for the wearer. The next way that I came around, I haven't seen the mask that was using this technique. It is basically painting the eyes over the mask surface. It requires a lot of skill from the crafter. It also requires some special techniques and special coatings to prevent the eyes to get rubbed off. So you can guess that it's almost no masks that have this kind of eyes, this kind of eye placement technique used within. And also the only possibility for this kind of eyes is just flat eyes as a pictures. So it's difficult and maybe unreasonable. The next way that, if I remember correctly, was an experiment waste for Yuri back then, decades ago, the usage of stickers in the dedicated places for the eyes. So you could place the eyes as a sticker or with a Velcro. It's also something like a sticker, but a bit more reusable, and can place them in place. And it's also limited to just the flat eyes. And since it's a sticker, if you are familiar with LEGO community or with Transformers community, then you know that stickers are worse than printed out parts. So this method didn't get widespread because of that stuff. Also, it may lift some pressure from the crafter, because in this case the eyes could be made separately, and then the duty to place them in place would be transferred to the mask owner. It would be the mask owner's mistake if the eyes would be misaligned. But again, this method wasn't used, and of course, if you are a crafter, you probably would place the stickers in place. And in case of, but it also would be easier to repair the mask, because ungluing stickers off, or if it would be a Velcro stickers, would be way easier method to display them. Than just ungluing the whole eye, etc. Speaking about ventilation and speaking about the see-through ability, you're again limited to a flat eyes that won't be see-through, but you can prepare some holes in the eye area to see through, and also they would work as a ventilation. A good idea. But there are better ways to make eyes and to place them into the mask, so let's move on. The Velcro. Using Velcro to place the eyes into the mask is a pretty common thing today. It's the most popular way, especially for Chinese makers. And for example, this is one of the masks, and you can see this part, this black thing is Velcro part, and the eyes are Velcro to the inside of the mask, as well as the paddings. What does it have? For the maker's perspective, you can make the mask and do not bother about eye alignment and eye placement, because you can do the mask absolutely separately from the eyes. Even it can be done in different parts of the world. That's a pretty good thing. But eye alignment is solely the responsibility of mask owner, because there are almost no guides for the eyes, almost no special pins, etc. So it is pretty possible to place the eyes wrong. But again, you can place the eyes not straight but to the side. If you do it correctly, it would give some more interesting expressions to your mask. Well, the other advantage of this technique is that you have a pretty decent gap between the mask and the eyes, so there is an extra ventilation. It is really good. And the other thing that is advantageous for this thing, that you can have a lot of eyes, a lot of different eyes for the same mask, and different masks can even share different eyes with themselves. But also there are disadvantages, and then one of the biggest disadvantages for me is the lack of the predictability of eye installment. Also, the Velcro is not very reliable on reusage, and if you plan to just put the eyes into it and stay it, well, it may be okay, but again, there are better ways for doing this. And also, if the eye would be poked inside and the Velcro would disengage, there is no way for the eye to get back in place until you took the mask off and reposition them. So, and the other thing is that Velcro is not very strong thing, and if you have a pretty big eye fixtures like electronic eyes, for example, that weight pretty decently, that would be a problem for them to stay in place with this construction. Again, so let's move to the next thing, and it's a removable glue pad. The removable glue pads is just like some plastilin, so this is one of those. And this thing is the invention of King Mask, and they use this thing pretty frequently. So it's more like the Velcro, but it's a bit more solid, and the eye stays in place more reliably. Also, there is a thing that they call a feature, that in case you get dizzy and you would need some more air, you just can poke the eye in, and it will drop into the mask, and you will have then a lot of ventilation. But I suspect it's not it's not a feature, it's more a bug, and it's just how to make this bug a bit more pleasant. So because you also could accidentally poke the eye inside the mask, or at the situation in the convention, someone can come to you and accidentally or deliberately poke the eye, just duk duk duk, and you will have to take the mask off to put the eye back in place. Also, you would need to keep the inner surface of the mask clean, so then that glue pad would stick with the surface of the mask well. So this might think of this idea. Well, and the next thing is magnets. Well, when I first utilized magnets, it was with this space. Well, I did it because I wanted different eyes. I want different eyes. I had my normal eyes and I had my following eyes, and I wanted to be able to interchange them. So I made this magnetic fixture. Then it was upgraded, and I will tell you a bit further about it. The upgrade. So it combines the advantages of Velcro and blue eyes. The eyes sits in place more reliably. And also you can make eyes separately from the mask, but in case of just a magnet, you will have to align eyes with the mask. You cannot just make the mask in one place of the world and the eyes in another place of the world. You will have to get the eyes at the mask making facility to align them and to align magnets on top of the eyes. So the eyes would get in place. But since that procedure is done, the eyes get pretty reliably in the mask. It's predictable, and then the owner of the mask would have almost no problems when they would place the eyes into the mask. They would just snap in place and stay where they are supposed to be. Also, you can make several sets of the eyes for the same mask, but you would have to align all the sets with the mask shell. Also, the advantage of this thing is that you can make eyes at different stages of the mask. So it doesn't basically matter when you make the eyes, when you start creating the mask or when you already finished creating the mask. Or if you are two separate people, one making the mask shell and the other makes eyes, and you can just get together when you need to align the magnets on the eyes, so the eyes would get aligned into the mask whenever they get into. Also, magnets are pretty reliable, and because the magnets lose about 1% of their strength every several decades. So it's pretty good, it's clean. And also, if you do not put the eyes all over the perimeter, you will have a very decent airflow, because the eyes would not get flush with the whole of the eye socket. There would be small gaps that won't be noticeable, but they would be sufficient for the ventilation and for them being able to stay in the mask for the long term. So, and the next evolution, this is the evolution of magnetic eyes, the standard magnetic fixtures. The standard magnetic fixtures is one of my ideas that I made when I made the two sets of eyes for my face. Well, someone asked me if they could have this kind of treatment for one of the masks I already made and shipped. So I told that I cannot do this because they wouldn't be able to properly align the eyes. And in case of a regular eyes, it's not a big deal. But if you do a follow me eyes, it's a very big deal. Follow me eyes are very sensitive for misalignment. Well, so I decided to invent a way to be able to make the eyes completely separate from the masks. And whenever I take the eye, the right eye or the left eye, I would be able to place the eye in place, almost in place, and it would snap in place, and it would be properly aligned every time, regardless of whether the eyes and the mask are made at the same time, at a different times, and even at a different years. For example, I have a lot of sets of eyes for my face. I have a lot of sets of eyes for my other masks. and most of them are interchangeable. So for the demonstration, this is for the demonstration. This is Yara, and Yara is one of more recent masks for this, and she has this standardized magnetic eye fixture. So I can just, well, I not look to the mask, so I took the eye, well, it's the following eye, and I can have another eye. Well, let's see, it's the left one. So I just take the eye and get it into place. Well, as MGO says, it's also always problem that camera is on, but okay. And so you can see the eye is just into place and it stays there, and I can take another eye. Well, would be for the right eye, so I take another eye. You can see it's completely different. I also can just take the eyes out of the mask and snap it in place, and here you go, here you have another eye in place. Well, I almost do it, I didn't look at the mask, I just place it there. And also it is possible to use very different kinds of eyes: flat eyes, doll eyes, special fixed eyes like following eyes, etc. Electronic eyes also possible, and the magnets are pretty strong, they can keep it in place. But also there are disadvantages of this method. One of the disadvantages is that eyes start to dictate your design. So you have a standardized eye size, and you have to adjust the mask design to meet that size requirements, and that can be possible all the time. Sometimes you will have to do something completely different, and the eyes for that mask would be incompatible with the others. Also, the standardized eye picture is pretty well, it's pretty big. It's about a couple of centimeters of space inside the mask, and because it has some standardized, it has some railings, have some surfaces to stick, so the eyes would stick in place, and that would prevent them from getting all over the place. So it may be a bit wrong, but for example, for Golcow masks, when they were pretty popular, they were called nose crushers because their nose was pretty flat, and during the wearing process you just do all that stuff, and well, it gets into your face, it gets bumped into your nose. In this case, there are pretty much place, a lot of place for your nose to get accommodated, because you have some stuff going on that is get into the mask for a decent amount of volume. So if you have a big nose, then there would be no problem to accommodate all that stuff into the mask. And also there are what about ventilation and what about predictability? You as a maker, you will have to line the eye the first time in the mask. You can use the dummy eyes, some kind of model, some kind of dummy to place it. And also there are an air gap around the eyes, so ventilation is pretty good in this case. And again, if you would want some more ventilation, like in King mask, you can push the eye inside the mask, and you have an extra ventilation, but as long as you release the eye, it gets back in place. So it's a superior way of this stuff. Well, again, there is a thing that if the eyes are standardized, well, there can be some extra tools that would help you to align eyes in the masks or to create the more eyes. So, well, as for me, as for people who are interested in creating the eyes for my masks, I also provide those tools and those stuff, and there is even a listing on Thingiverse on Cast3D that about the eyes of my systems. So the next thing, how you can place eyes into the mask is with screws, with bolts, with nuts. But this thing is almost not used because it is difficult. It gives you almost the same amount of advantages as magnetic eyes, but with a lot more tedious process of installing eyes, on aligning eyes, and when you are a maker, and also a more tedious process of installing and changing eyes when you are a user, because you have to get into the mask and you have to do all this stuff. So, for example, for this mask, I did this technique, but the main reason for me to do this technique is because I wanted I wanted to have some interesting gimmick, and I will tell you in some of the next reasons. Because, and I bolted not the eyes themselves, I bolted the rail guides into the mask to put the eyes into it, so it could do pretty fancy and pretty interesting stuff. Well, so here some advantages and disadvantages. Well, there is one serious advantage in this method compared to magnets and standardized magnets. You can make the holes for the bolts not round but oval, and the eyes would be able to move along those holes in the mask, and you will be able to do, well, movable eyes gimmick. But there are also other variants of this way. Well, also bolts fixtures, and also standardized bolt fixture is a bit bulkier than custom tailored bolt fixture. So, and all other stuff is more the same as the standardized magnet fixture. Well, so also there is also another thing with bolt fixtures, that you can make an extra element, the very bulky elements in the mask that could be bolted from the inside of the mask along the eyes. In this case, everything would stay in place. Well, also the rail guides. So, what is the rail guides? The rail guides is some kind of structures inside the mask that will allow you to place the eyes in a predictable way. So when I made my magnetic eyes, there are surfaces that also work as guides. And in this case, in case of this mask, I bolted rail guides to the mask, so I would be able to do this kind of gimmick. When you put this mask on, you would be able to move a bit from side to side. So you see this this thing, it is movable, and what does it do? So you move it with your nose. And basically the gimmick was that you take your mask and, for example, you just stay in place, well, like this, and then suddenly, without any movement, your eyes start to move left to right. So, and the guides make that pretty easy, and you can make them easy to replace eyes and to create different kinds of eyes. Also, all that they need to share is the same profile at where the mask is created. For example, this is my design for Meta. Well, it's on Thingiverse, and this is design made by Helenako. XCOM Twitter Helenako C. It's also, this picture is from Cost 3D. So this design is also available by the author to be printed. Well, of course, I think that my designs are superior because I know a bit more about structural things and structural integrity. But again, there are what you can see, what you can talk. Well, so this is the main advantages and disadvantages. You can pause if you want. Again, and we go to the next. The semi-rigged masks is a Muni idea. The masks are basically made the same way as, for example, the rubber hose masks, and or gas masks, when you just have a flexible mask surface and you put the glass into a dedicated indent. And Muni make pretty same thing, but it has a lot of it is pretty specialized, so you can do this for all the bunch of the masks, but you would be limited, so for that bunch only. Again, you can make eyes pretty separately from the mask at a different parts of the world at different times, and with the right engineering, if you engineer the eyes and then you engineer the mask and you stick to your designs, then it would be interchangeable. But again, as in case of my eyes, if you have this engineered to be interchangeable, then I start to dictate the design of your mask a bit. Well, the biggest flaw with this eyes, as I see it, is that the seal between the eyes and the mask is tight, and there is no air gap, so you would have to organize your ventilation inside the mask in a different way. You cannot rely on eyes in this case, and it may get you a pretty difficult breathing if you like to breathe, basically. But well, if you breath preferred, then well, you may not like Kigurumi at all, so it's not a big deal. After all, is overrated. We all know that. Well, and this is the exotic idea. The idea I came with it 15 years ago, when I was making my very first mask. Well, here it is. Welcome, Luna Noctamesa. One of the very first original characters. Now she wears the eyes of her elder sister, Aoi, and well, as you can see, its design is very outdated, but the amount of innovations in these masks, well, it's a lot. we were young, we were creative, so we did a lot. So, well, as you can see, the eyes put with duct tape, well, is basically a precursor of Velcro. So I would take them out to show you a very different thing. And she had the moving eye gimmick, and it was created in a pretty ingenious way. Well, again, it's a lot of stuff going on here. So we had mobile eyes. This is her first look, and then I changed the wig again. This was my innovation, and again eyelash, all the stuff. So this is her eyes, and you can see they are put on glasses, basically welded glasses. So they are created on the glasses, and they are supposed to be put on before you put on the mask. And because the mask allows you some movement inside, you put the stuff. Well, it works very well with when the mask is on, but if you do not have the curvature of your head inside, it may be a bit trickier. So let's situate the eyes, and you can see that you can move the eyes in. You can move the eyes into different coordinates. Also, you can see that it is not that smooth than when you do not wear it, but when you wear it, it is way smoother. Well, it's a bit difficult to situate the mask. It gets stuck. And well, yes, it's pretty awkward. Pretty awkward. It gets stuck, and as you can see, there is enough for admiring one of the first things with a lot of innovations in the Kigurumi world. Well, get back to that page. So as you can see, there are some advantages of this. You can move eyes side to side, up and down, and all just by holding the mask with your hand, and then you move it and it moves. But you can have to do pretty good guides inside the mask to make it move smoother. You also have to make those guides in a way that they will not destroy the eyes, because the eyes would rub the interior of the mask. You have to do something with that. And you also cannot do it completely separate from the mask. You will have to do it together with the mask, but at different stages. You do not have to stick to one stage of mask making or another stage of mask making. You have to just situate it at one situation when you have the mask shell ready, and then it can be separate. You can use several sets of eyes. You can make several sets of eyes for the same mask in this case. This is And if done properly, this would have some good advantages, good special effects, as you can see on the photos. And when the mask is put on, the eye sides get a bit more curved, so it's more easy to move it from side to side than when you have a hand, because there are no rail guides and everything is situated together because of the wearer's head. And it's better to have the wearer's head in place because it would make the situations of the eyes a bit more easy. Because, well, you won't miss the horizontal direction. They would get forward, but you can miss the vertical directions and the eyes can look a bit too up or a bit too down without, if you won't do a test fit. And again, about the ventilation, ventilation is great because there is a pretty sizable gap between the eyes and the mask. So the next thing I would like to point you is the mechanicals or animatronics. Is the situation when you basically design the interior of the mask, all the ports, all the positions. As for example, the Zone RK3LY is a Chinese maker who does a lot of interesting technical innovations. So they have some eyes that change the picture of the pupil. Some electronics, they have some video glasses inside their mask. So, well, of course, I tried to do it. Well, about the animatronics, it was actually Yuri who did it first, the blinking eyes from Yuri from about 12-ish years ago. Well, and then it was Mania Yunis who tried this, but I saw only one prototype on the Twitter and nothing more. And then there's this maker who also tried to master it and did it also pretty well, and more in Yuri style back then. So, and also these things, these ports, one of these is some pinhole, like a door pinhole, and the other is some micro screen. And well, me and Gokao played with micro screens for a while already. Also about 12, 13, maybe 13 years ago we played it with the analog micro screens, and then there was some iterations, and now I have a way to see through the camera, and they have a way to see through their cameras. Well, sorry, a bit. Well, the lecture is too long, getting too long. Well, anyway, all that stuff requires some placements inside the mask. You can glue them inside the mask surface. You can design a special ports for bolts, for magnets, for all the stuff. Why I did even mention this stuff here, for example, you can also look for the Tooth Fairy, then magnificent cosplay by the animation film Guardians, and that character is basically bring to life with all the animatronics, as that character has. It can open their mouth, can blink, can move their eyes in both directions, and the eye movement and blinkage is controlled by an infrared camera inside the mask that tracks the eyes of the wearer. And also there are some extra animatronics on the head and on the back of the character. Well, basically the only problem with that character is that they somehow didn't make the gloves. Well, everything else is absolutely great, especially in technical perspective. Well, and they also captured their character look also very well, and it was made about 11 years ago, and well, it's still operational. So the reason why I included animatronics into this list, because the animatronics is usually requires you to design a separate way of installing all that stuff and design the elements around those mechanisms you would use. Those mechanisms, those electronics. So sometimes you can integrate that into the existing versions. For example, this is my electronic eyes that are compatible with my masks. So you can see, well, left, right, change picture. So this is compatible with my masks. I can put it into my mask, but you can see the picture of the eyes, the picture of the screen is specially made, specially designed around the eyes, around the eye socket, around the PCB. Well, so I wouldn't put it, well, maybe I will put it into the mask. So, well, it's a chance, because it is possible in this particular situation. Well, again, but usually it is not, because all the specifications of this stuff would dictate you a lot, and would dictate you how to manage everything inside your mask. So basically, if you can do it, again, it is a bit misaligned. So, well, so it's that game, and you can see how much stuff is going to be placed inside, and you have to manage to situate all that stuff in the mask as well. So it's beyond the usual other method, and of course it would work pretty good with bolts, with magnets, with glue, and with other permanent ways to install stuff into the mask shell. And of course it is pretty, it weighs a lot, it costs a lot, it's difficult to manufacture, you need to be an engineer, and a pretty serious engineer. I doubt that a simple ChatGPT would be able to do this stuff anytime soon, because you have to keep a lot of stuff in mind, and it's not just being able to extrapolate the things you know, but it's about colliding different knowledges together and mash those different knowledges together. And so it's not just intuition, it's a lot more, it's engineering knowledge. And so, but the only reason you would use animatronics is that you want a very special, very interesting, very unique special effects in the mask, because this is basically very difficult, very expensive, very problematic, but the only way to make special effects. So again, this is the summary, and you can see the methods I mentioned in the same order. So There are what is it from the maker perspective, the production difficulty, eyes are made separately or together with the mask, is chapter image predictable or you can rely on user, the end user, is it possible to make several eyes, and also from here, from this column is both for maker and for the user. Is several eyes possible for the user? Also, the durability of the mask, how long will it last, and how long the fixture of eyes would last before you will have to do a serious repair of that fixture. Then, is the user involved into installing, how hard it is for the user to install the eyes, or is it just snap and play, or is it or does user have nothing to do, it's just there from the get-go and you have no way to change it? So there are different ways. So medium involvement and low involvement is about clicking eyes in place. Then advanced involvement, that you need to align eyes, you need to make sure that everything stays in place, because again the following eyes are very sensitive to being misaligned. You will notice it very fast if the follow me eyes are misaligned, while the regular eyes are not so sensitive for this stuff. But because of this, we have advanced for example, the Velcro connected eyes, because you will have to align them properly, etc. So the mask ventilation, so is the ventilation possible around the eyes, or is it basically a default setting, or is it not possible or very difficult to make, or you have to specially ask the maker to do this stuff for you? Can you use a see-through eyes in this variant? So the see-through eyes are different eyes. It may be a mesh, it may be a glass like mine, it may be some kind of cutouts in the eyes. Well, then can you use a special effects eyes? It is again the follow me eyes, basically it's electronic eyes, and etc. So basically, can you place that eyes in this situation? Is it possible? For example, there is no possibility for painted eyes to be any different than just a flat eye. So there is no possibility of special effects. And when the eyes are fixed to wearer's head, is basically the gimmick, the special effect basically baked into the design. So. Again, the animatronic, the only reason to use animatronics is to have a special effect. So it is when, for example, bolts and nuts is possible, then animatronics is the solid yes, because it is. It is the reason why you use animatronics, the only legitimate reason. And again, the weight, how much this thing would weigh. So usually it's nothing, but sometimes some of the designs have a bit larger. The standardized fixtures are a bit more bulky and weight a bit more. The eyes on the separate glasses I also would weight a bit more than usual. And of course the animatronics, it's a lot of mechanisms, batteries, electronics, etc. that basically weigh a significant amount of grams. And the mask, it can weigh as much as the half of the rest of the mask. So that's it, and I hope that my opinion, my insights, and was helpful for you if you are going to make the mask or to choose the mask. show the mask for yourself, and the link to this document would be in the comments, so you can refresh your all that I said briefly. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope that when I will put some new videos about mask making, there was a lot of stuff I want to cover in the next videos. So the ventilation, the hair, the different ways to make the eyes themselves, etc, 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 etc. There is a lot of stuff I'm going to share with you, so I hope that you will come to visit me next in my next lectures. So bye bye, thank you very much.